Outnumbered co-host Kayleigh McEnany and Fox News contributor Charlie Hurt and former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee is with us. The word that I hear most often is, Kayleigh, they are in a state of panic, complete state of panic. And frankly, you can't blame them. How do they get out of this?
I mean, when 73% of Democrats say that Biden is too old to serve a second term, that's highly problematic. Now, as to how they get out of this, they have to have an intervention. I agree with the assessment that Biden is far too hubristic, far too stubborn to ever step aside himself. That in his mind would be tantamount to admitting failure of his first term, which we all agree, and the assessment of the American people agrees with that as well. But there is going to have to be an intervention from Team Obama, from high-ranking Democrats, from the Clinton team. There will have to be a moment where they come to him and say, Joe, you have to step aside, or else you're looking at a Trump presidency, quite literally.
All right, Governor Huckabee, I don't like to count chickens before they hatch. However, it seems that Obama and Clinton, they're all in on his reelection as they are planning to step up and campaign with him and for him, maybe following Van Jones's advice, which is hide him and let other people, surrogates, go out there and do the talking for him. Will that strategy work?
You know, Sean, I think you're just way too harsh about Joe Biden. If you'd listen to medical experts like Rachel Maddow, she even admits that, you know, he's very capable of being president because he rides a bike. Now, what else do you need to be president of the United States than the ability to ride a bicycle, for God's sake, and eat ice cream without a brain freeze?
He fell off the bicycle.
This is the ultimate.
Yeah, he fell, Governor. He fell off the bicycle. We all saw it.
You know, and it is tragic, and I'm sorry about him bumping his head and tripping up the steps and all those other things. We laugh because it's the only way we can cope with the fact that we have the leader of the free world who cannot complete a sentence. If you listen to his speeches from just 3 years ago, they weren't great 3 years ago, but they were coherent. And now you listen to him in a news conference or in a speech, even reading from the prompter today, 3 years later. And it is astonishing, the difference. And if anyone can't see that, they're simply just ignoring reality.
And Charlie, we've talked about this a lot. Charlie has every right to hate me because almost on a weekly basis, I have asked him whether or not he thinks that Biden's still going to be on the ticket. If they wanted to get rid of him, how does that play out? Because I don't see his family intervening, not at all. I listen to the likes of Circle Back Jen Psaki, the media mob. They'll go to any length to protect him. He's in great health. It's hard for me to keep up. Like I'm hearing this from a 30-year-old, young person. He rides a bicycle. Oh, okay, that proves everything, that he's in great cognitive health. The question is, if they want to do it, how do you do it? And what about the Kamala problem? She's at a 28% approval rating.
Well, I think that, if they're going to get rid of him, they're going to do exactly what they're doing right now. If you think about the Democrat Party is always all about control. And what they need to do is they need to get through the primary. They need to get Joe Biden to collect all of the delegates needed to nominate somebody, and they have to take it to a convention. And they have to pray that nothing bad, nothing even worse happens to him between now and the convention. And then at the convention, they can figure out a way. They'll find somebody, the Democrat Party leaders who control everything will get in their smoke-filled rooms and figure out somebody, Gavin Newsom or whoever, that that Joe Biden can then convey his delegates to. But I think for them, the real fear and the reason I think a lot of these people, while they're raising alarm bells, are not acting, swifter and more publicly against him, is because they've got to do everything that they can to make sure that he gets through the primary and to the convention. Because if something does happen and Kamala Harris, because she is hale and hearty and healthy, she may not always sound like it. She may sound drunk half the time, but she's not. She's pretty young and she's pretty healthy. She doesn't have the problems that Biden has. And the idea of getting her out at a convention is, I think, pretty impossible.
I want the transcript, but I also want the videotape from Robert Hur. I mean, they're denying that this happened with the special counsel. They're angry and lashing out, Kayleigh, at the special counsel. How about let the American people read the transcript, see the tape for themselves, and then they can make the decision. I think the American people deserve to be informed about an issue, you know, of this level of importance. And, you know, for the special counsel to write that and then say, well, he'd probably come off as a sympathetic old man, nice guy, but yet he was, you know, he fully was involved in the decision making as it relates to documents, but no jury's going to, you know, convict him, just like no reasonable prosecutor would prosecute for Hillary, and then the double standard with Donald Trump. That's a lot for the American people to digest here, I think.
Yeah, total belief in the two-tiered justice system. And in fact, you know, his biographer destroying the tapes. So it's incredible to the American people to look at the two examples, and Trump gets hit with 91 counts. This guy walks. But I totally agree with you. We must see the transcript. It is our only long-form opportunity to see the mental incapacity of this president. And I say the only one because you think that guy on your screen, President Biden's, ever going to go toe-to-toe on a debate stage with Donald Trump? He knows he would get smoked, not once, not twice, but 3 times. So that transcript is the only window the American voter has into the decline of this president.
Well, I've got to imagine, and my understanding is there's a videotape of it also, is it not? I want to see the videotape.
There is. Yeah. Yes.
All right,
the video,
so
the
release
transcript,
that.
all of it.
Well, they're so transparent. They promise transparency. All right, here's the deadly exit question, which everybody hates. And you know it's coming, Governor. Does he make it to November? Is he going to be on the ticket come November?
I doubt it. A month ago, I just said he probably would, but I think the deterioration, what happened last Thursday night was so stark, so shocking, and this report really, I think, just nailed it. I don't see him making it all the way to the election.
I don't know, Charlie. I think this was the worst week of the Biden presidency. Does he make it? And I think you might have vacillated a time or two, but I'm not going to hold you accountable for that.
Yeah, no, I've been. I'm like a cuckoo clock. I've given you every single possible answer, but I am back with where the governor is. I don't think that he makes it, and I think that you know, the most startling thing about what happened on Thursday last week was that when somebody said that he was mentally unfit, he decides to call a press conference to announce that in fact he is mentally fit to stand trial, and then turns around and puts Mexico in the Middle East. So that kind of answered the question for us, I think.
Well, maybe you need to have an open mind about these things, Charlie. Those types of things can happen in the course of life. Kayleigh, you get the last word. Is he on the ticket in November?
Up until last Thursday, my answer was yes, no doubt about it. The man's too stubborn. Last Thursday changed everything. That was the heel turn moment. I do not think he will be the nominee because the Democrats are endorsing a massive, massive loss.
All right. Now I have to ask a follow-up. If it's not him, who replaces him? Governor Huckabee.
Let me just announce it will not be me. I just want to make clear, because I know a lot of speculation is that I will be the guy, but I won't be. I don't think it's going to be Michelle Obama. There are a lot of people saying that, but she hates politics. I don't think she wants any part of it. I think they're in trouble. They don't have a bench. I mean, this is a bad situation. You're a baseball team. Your pitcher has just totally thrown his arm, and you look at the bullpen, and there's nobody there.
Who would it be, Charlie?
I think if they can get it to the convention, they're going to try to do something as safe as possible and go with Gavin Newsom and deal with the fallout from not picking Kamala Harris.
I'm going to bet Gretchen Whitmer. She has a book coming out. Magically, they're rushing it out. Kayleigh, last word for sure.
Governor Gavin Newsom, no doubt about it. He's run California into the ground, but that man is a brilliant communicator. But here's the key, Sean. You got to get buy-in from Kamala Harris. You don't have buy-in from Vice President Kamala Harris, you can't switch the top of the ticket.
One day he should thank me for all the publicity I gave him. I was warning people. I knew that was a possibility.
We can blame you for this.
I better not hold my breath, though. All right, thank you all. Appreciate it. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.